All right, taking a look at the rentals in York region, Matt, we've consistently seen a little bit more of a softening in the rental market in a lot of areas, right? So we're seeing a slight decrease there in our median price month over month, so down just under 2%, down 7% for the year over year, and down 7% year to date change in comparison to last year. But we are seeing uptick in rentals in comparison to last year. Again, year to date, not looking at our month to month numbers, but we're seeing 11% more rentals this far in the year in comparison to previous years. It's interesting to
Yeah, I
see.
think there's a flood of supply that's coming to the market when it comes to rentals. There's a lot of people that bought condos, can't sell them now, so they're renting them. There's a lot of purpose-built rentals that have hit the market. There's a lot of people putting basement apartments in.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of supply
Supply.
that's really coming onto the market right now, and that's clear in the data. Um, but at the same time, the government of Canada has brought in another almost 900,000 people to start the year. So even though they said that they were going to take their foot off the gas, it does seem like that hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
But there was such a demand and such a low supply that so many people in the last couple of years really started to build more and more purpose-built rentals. And we're starting to see that hit the market now, but it'll only be for so long, and then it'll start to cool off. And another thing too is a lot of condo buildings, if they couldn't sell their supply, they're out there renting it on the market potentially right now. I've seen a couple condo places with for rents in those buildings from the actual builder. So that's helped as well increase these numbers.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to see, like we talk about termination, it's quite low on our month over month numbers. But again, if you're looking year over year, we're up 58%. So it's not the hot rental market that we used to be seeing. I know there's still a ton of competition out there for the right properties, but to see that termination volume up so high in rentals is interesting to see.
If I was to show you the lease volume chart first, you would say this is a hot market
Yeah.
because it's record. Like, go to the lease volume chart first before we show anything else. I think it's chart 91. Right? So
Yep.
you're at all-time highs for the amount of, so at first glance I'd be like, oh, the market's probably going to be crazy. But when you go back to new listings, you're at an all-time high new listings, you're at an all-time high, incredibly all-time high on the active
Active
listings,
listings, but
but then you've also got
we're renting a
incredible
ton of
demand.
them.
Yeah. So
That
it's just
might be
that,
one of my most interesting charts of the day when we look at
yeah,
that, because you're just
yeah.
record high across the board
Your record high in everything, right?
in every category.
So it's whatever one's going to give first, right? And it looks like the lease volume is the one that's going to give
It
first.
does, yes.
It's starting to roll over right now, whereas the active listings and the new listings are still trending to the upside. So
Yeah.
I think ultimately in the short term that they're going to win. I think that rental prices are going to continue to come down a bit, and if that's the case, if we're in like, let's go to the price. So we can see the median lease price is the lowest it's been in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
If rental prices keep going to the downside as well, there's not more of a need for them to rotate into the buy side if they can find new places for cheaper than what they might already be in now.
Yeah.
So you might have to see that those potential people aren't jumping into the buy side. So that might have an effect on why sales are sluggish as well for the condos and the townhomes and stuff like that, because rents are getting cheaper.
Yeah. It's interesting because that has a breaking point too for landlords in general. Now we talked a lot about the purpose-built rentals that have been hitting the market. That makes a little bit of a difference. But your
Yeah.
mom and pop landlords that are still dealing with higher interest rates, they have a threshold that they can bear where it's going to be a lot more of a loss. So again, it'd be interesting to see how this fluctuates. But where were we in 2020? It was 2,350. So I mean, there is still wiggle room to see this continue to go down in terms of what we've seen in the past. It might be interesting at some point to track this back further, just in the rental market in particular, because I'm just curious to know where that looks in comparison to our housing prices anyway. But
Yeah, I'll update that for next year. And then this chart to top everything off,
yeah,
1.84 months of inventory. Like
oh,
you look at
it,
those charts, you're like, oh my god, the active listings and everything, it's all time highs, it's crazy. But really, it's 1.84 months of
this
inventory
so
that can get absorbed quickly.
so again, this is like as a boots on the ground. This is the competition that it still feels like when you're out there trying to help a tenant find a place.
Yeah,
There's only 1.6 months worth of inventory. Everybody's moving for the same stuff. It is crazy to see that all these are at record highs. And then, sorry, I went a little too far there. Record high for new listings, record high for active listings, record high for lease volume, which is then what is reflected into our 1.6 months worth of inventory.